Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow.
So yeah, simply put, watching greatness, or James Harden, inspires imitation, right? Watching any type of greatness inspires imitation. Just like there's something about it when you see great people do great things, kind of inspires to try to do the same thing. We just want to try it as well. So we're in Hebrews chapter 12. We're in Hebrews chapter 12. But in chapter 11, Hebrews chapter 11, there's a nickname for that chapter. Do you know what that nickname is? It's called the Hall of Faith. Kind of like a play on the Hall of Fame is the Hall of Faith, because the writer of Hebrews would list all these people with great faith, and it was by faith. He talked about Abel, he talked about Abraham, he talked about Moses, he talked about Samson, he talked about all these people in Scripture. He just lists them. He goes, by faith, this person did that. By faith, this person did that. By faith, talk about Rahab, talk about David or Samuel, and they kept on going to even people and he's like, there's all these people that I can't even name, right? People that were mocked or flogged or stoned, or all these things. Because by faith, all these people have went through and suffered for the gospel. They trusted God. By faith, they did all these things, and they trusted God. And so with all that, he goes look up and say, all this just inspires imitation, right? The greatness inspires imitation. He goes by all of this. He goes through a whole chapter talking about all these people who had this great faith and trusted God. And then we get to chapter 12, and we get to the first verse. We're only going to do 3 verses this morning, so let me go ahead and we'll just kind of pick up on chapter 12 in Hebrews. And so we talk about this huge hall of faith. And he goes, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, some of all those people that we just talked about in chapter 11, the hall of faith, he goes, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. All right, so the writer of Hebrew is simply saying, because you have all these great examples, all these people that we witness, all these amazing people of faith, let's inspire to be like them. What is that like? And so if I was to wrap up these 3 verses into just one sentence, it was something like this. We are called to run our spiritual race by casting off sin and focused on Christ. Right? Just like these great men and these great women of faith that he talks about in chapter 11. Just about this story. Let us run our spiritual race by 2 things. Casting off sin and focused on Christ. All right, so let's dig in. Let's dig in, and we'll go back to the first verse of chapter 12. And the first challenge he gives us, the first challenge, and kind of what he challenges the readers of Hebrews is, he goes, shake it up. Shake it up. Let's look what it means. He goes, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, he goes, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. You see, back in the day, when we just kind of finished the Olympics, and back in the day when they have all these athletic events, what they would do, what the runners would do before they would actually start running, they would take off all their clothes before they run. Because they just don't want anything holding them down. They don't want anything kind of like pulling them back. And so they would take everything off so they can run well. I mean, so we just know that we just had the Olympics this past year, right? Or actually this past couple months ago, this past summer. So if you're here, we talked a little bit about that. You know that Pastor Steve, Pastor Steve Korch, who just spoke here last week, said had a niece that was an Olympian. And with these athletes, they take everything so seriously, right? They take every single part seriously. With a lot of these athletes that we just watched this past summer, some of them have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on training. Could you believe that? Like some of these swimmers or runners have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to have somebody train them throughout every single year. They closely monitor their nutrition. They watch their weight, whether they need to gain weight or lose weight. They watch their strength, flexibility, when they train, how they train, how hard you should train. They monitor, even monitor your rest and recovery time. This is when you should rest. This is how long you should rest. This is how you should do what you should do. This is what you eat. And they do all these things so they can run or swim or whatever athletic event they're participating in, so they can do it to the best of their abilities. And so here in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, the writer here is telling him, goes, you need to take off anything that will prevent you from running the race well. He goes, lay aside every weight and lay aside every sin which clings so closely. He goes, let us run with endurance. All right, you don't need to look very far to see that that people would do certain things to make sure that they perform to the best of their ability. And the writer here is saying that I want you to do whatever it takes to make sure you perform to your peak ability. You see, first there's two different categories. First one is pretty self-explanatory that we talked about, which is sin itself. It tells us to lay aside our sin. Because sin, it clings to you like a parasite. It sucks you dry, it drags you down, and it takes everything with you. Right? Sin is never a self-containing thing. You can't just hold sin and put it in a little box and not have it impact maybe your work or your family. It destroys relationships with friends and maybe your children. It strains your relationship with God. It can really leave you discouraged and hopeless, right? So when we hold on to certain sins in our lives and we try to manage them instead of lay them aside, it simply leaves us enslaved. And you're not free to run this spiritual race well. So he's saying the first thing is, sometimes some of us here, we got sins that cling to us so closely that we're just trying to manage instead of just getting rid of. And it's like trying to run a race in dress shoes and jeans, right? Like you just need to change out of them, put on some proper clothes to go run. And it's like we're trying to manage our sin. And in this metaphor of a spiritual, our spiritual life is like this race. He's saying some of you are just kind of like wearing and holding on to these heavy weights while you're running. And he goes, just lay them aside. Lay them aside. You are not going to be able to run well because sin is going to weigh you down. This is not a casual race. This is not like a stroll in the park. Because this is important, this is serious. And I love this because the writer of Hebrews, he uses all these athletic metaphors, right? And he's talking about sports here. He goes, just like when you're running, he goes, lay these things aside. Lay these things aside. But the second one he mentions, that's just important, when he says, let us lay aside every weight, and for maybe some of you in your Bible it says, let us lay aside every hindrance. He's saying that, some of these things are just distractions or hindrances in your life that you need to lay aside, you need to shake off. It might not be sinful in and of itself, but it has gotten to a point in your life that it holds you back and weighs you down. They distract you. They help you, they distract you so you forget your goal and your purpose in life. It distracts you from running your spiritual race well. I know for me, one of the big things that I had to start cutting slowly out of my life is sports. Now, we both, no one will ever argue like sports is a bad thing, or sports is a sinful thing. But I slowly realized that sports was something that got in the way of things. It got in the way of my spiritual race. It held me down. Right? I knew that something was wrong when every single fall I would rather stay at home and watch TV than go out and spend time with family and friends. I realized something was wrong when during the fall, every single Sunday, I couldn't concentrate on the message or concentrate on worshiping God because I was so engaged in fantasy football. Right? I started realizing that these things in and of itself was not necessarily bad or wrong, but it was a huge detriment to my spiritual walk, my spiritual race. And I even know some people here in this room have made decisions like that, going, I will no longer play fantasy sports, not because it's wrong or bad, but because I know that it's hurting my spiritual race. And so a lot of us here this morning, we come in with a lot of weights. There might not necessarily be sinful things, but there are things that are weighting us down so we can't run well. We can't run the spiritual race well. It could be things like friends or hobbies. It could be just certain habits. It could be entertainment. It could be work. It could be so many things that are keeping us from running this race well, from running towards Jesus as lightly as possible, as lightweight as possible. So the question that we need to ask ourselves this morning, one of the things that we really need to wrestle with this morning, the question is, so what sins and what weights are preventing you from running this spiritual race well? What is holding you back? What is weighing you down? What do you need to lay aside or shake off? Maybe it's your pride or greed that has held you down. Or maybe it's lust. Or maybe it's sports that has just kind of made you feel like you're running in quicksand. Or maybe it's busyness. Or maybe not learning to say no so you can grow in your walk. Maybe it's unforgiveness. Maybe it's anger that's dragging you down, holding you back, that's sucking the life out of you. And you see, the first thing we see tells us, lay aside those things. It's actually a direct action. You can actually do this. He goes, do this. Lay aside this. And what does he want us to do instead? He says this. He goes, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Instead of letting these things hold us down, hold us back, lay them aside, let us run with endurance. Keep this mind endurance. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And he goes, and run the race that is set before us. So what does he want us to do instead? He goes, run with endurance the race that has been given to you. We all have a different spiritual race or a different track that we run. Some of us may have more turns and curves than others. Some of your courses might look like the Texas terrain, which is flat, painfully uncomfortable, boring, and hot. Others might have really exciting races, like maybe San Francisco Hills, that will challenge you every step of the way, but it's like incredibly painful, going up and down hills. Well, see, all of our races are different. And what the writer is telling us, what the writer of Hebrews is telling us is, like, just run your race. Run your race and run it well. Don't go looking around looking at other people like, why is yours so much easier? Oh, why do you get that, right? Why do you have that? Oh, why is mine so hard? Why do I have to deal with this marriage? Or why do I have to deal with this set of friends? Why do I have to go to this school? Why wish I had a different job? Why does this person get to have this job or this work or get to live here? He goes, hey, that's not what it's about. This is yours. This is your race. Lay all those stuff down. Lay aside those things and let us run with endurance the race that God has given you. And so maybe the question is, all right, so the first thing he wants us to do is shake off those things. Lay aside the things that are holding us down, holding us back, weighting us down, making us feel like we're running like a quicksand or molasses, and to be able to run light on our feet. And the second thing, he starts talking about the motivation. So in verse 2, he answers, like, how else should we run this race? Just looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him, here's the word, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. So what we see next is we want to run this race with laser-like focus on Jesus. You are laying stuff aside that's holding you back. You're looking ahead towards Jesus, and he calls him to focus on Jesus and in his humanity. He calls Jesus the founder and perfecter of our faith. Or someone's like, the author of our faith. He's saying that Jesus is the one that actually started it and finished faith. He lived a life of perfect faith from start to finish. And he goes, essentially, you are able to have faith because of Jesus. He's the first and he's the finisher. He finished the faith. He perfected faith lived out. Because he lived out faith. He lived out his life in faith, in total dependence of his Father. He lived out not only the perfect life, but the perfect life by faith, through faith. And he's saying that what the encouragement is look at Jesus and follow that. He's the guy that finished it all for us. He goes, Jesus used all the tools that you have in your life to live out faith, so you can do the same thing. Right? In Isaiah 53:2, it says that when he talks about Jesus, he goes, he had no form or majesty that we should look at him. There was no beauty that we should desire. In Philippians chapter 2, 6 and 7, he goes, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of man. Essentially, he says that he laid down his rights, his power, and his privilege as God. So I think a lot of times when we think of Jesus, when we think of him coming down, and we share this gospel story to each other and to our friends, and a lot of us might know this gospel story well. That Jesus came down from heaven to earth, taking on a bodily form. He was 100% man, just like you and me, human. But he lived a perfect life. He didn't do a single thing that displeased God while on earth. And even in heaven, he has never done a single thing that displeased God, never did a single thing that hurt others, or he never did anything what we call sin, never missed the mark. And not only he lived the perfect life, he was crucified on the cross as if he lived a sinful life. Essentially, his perfection was swapped and exchanged with our imperfection. And that was the great thing about what happened, is that Jesus' perfection and all the great things that he has done has now been swapped with our things, all our junk, that we can now have forgiveness and reconciliation, that we can now be in relationship with God through Jesus. But the thing is, I think a lot of times, especially for us who've grown up at church, it's easy for us to think of Jesus as some superhero that breezes through life. As much as we learn about that, that's not the truth. We think he's like LeBron James, just like dunking his way through life. Or maybe he's like Superman, just kind of like pretending that things hurt him, or pretending that he's weak, but really he's, he dresses up like Clark Kent, but he's really Superman in disguise. And we think that he's like this superhero talented guy that, like, how can I relate to this man? Right? Like, yeah, I get it, he's perfect, but how can I relate to him? But what Hebrews is saying is like that, no. That's not how he lived. He wasn't pretending. He lived every single part in total dependence on God. He had all the tools that we had, and he used them to show that you can live this type of life of faith. He goes, he did everything with the tools and the weaknesses and restrictions that any of us have. Can I share with you a struggle of mine? Something that I've been struggling recently, and I spent some time talking to my mentor about this. Even for us as pastors, we have mentors and we have people that we talk to about stuff. And so I was talking to my mentor about this, and I was saying, you know what? I really struggle with prayer. And I said, why I struggle with prayer is I feel like sometimes God is just going to do what he's going to do, and my prayers don't really matter. And I said, I know, and I've learned that prayer does matter. And in my head, I get that, but in my heart sometimes it's like, it just doesn't feel that way. So it feels, I don't have the motivation to pray because I feel like, sometimes it's going to happen, right? Like when I hurt myself, I sprained my ankles, and I prayed to be healed. Do I really believe that because I prayed I'm healed? I'm like, whether I pray or not, I feel like I'll be okay in a couple of weeks anyway. And I feel like that. But then you know what happened is so I actually spent some time praying about that. I said, God, this is how I feel. I know this is not right. I know that none of this is right, but man, it's just kind of hard to pray. And then I was reminded that Jesus prayed. He spent every moment praying. Anything that he'd done in ministry was through prayer. He'd wake up early in the morning to go up in the mountain to pray. And I was like, man, if Jesus felt like he needed to pray, why do I feel like I don't need to pray? Right? And it reminded me, wait a minute, if Jesus felt like he needed to pray, he needed to connect to God in that way, that he had to ask God for things to be done, like, God, please heal this man, right? Or God, do this, or God, please do this. Even when he was about to go to the cross, God, is there another way? And his prayers were real, raw, honest prayers. It wasn't like I'll just kind of do it for show type of prayer. And he actually communicated and wrestled with God. He actually asked God for stuff. He actually thanked God for things. And when I started looking at that, I go, yeah, it changed my mindset. And that's what Hebrews is trying to get us to do. Right? He's like, why are you running a race? Look to Jesus. He is the founder and perfecter of our faith. All the things he has done, you have the tools to do it as well. He was human just like you. He had to depend on God for every step of the way, just like how we need to depend on God on every step of the way. And he goes, and how did he do it? Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. That was his race that he had to run. And just like for us, that we need to endure the race with endurance, the race that's set before us. To run the race with endurance, the race that's set before us. Because Jesus endured the cross, despising the shame. Simply put, he's not saying that the shame wasn't there. He was saying that the shame paled in comparison with what you would get afterwards. The shame paled in comparison. to the joy that was set before him, to be able to sit at the right hand of God after when it's all done. The joy of being reunited with his Father. The honor and glory as the Son of God that can bring many sons and bring many people to his kingdom. See, when he saw all of that, he says, it's easy for me to despise shame. Right? You're asking me to pay $200,000, which is a great sum of money, for a $3 million house. We can go, $200,000 is a lot of money, right? But if you're going to give me a $3 million house, you give me a week, I'll find that $200,000 for you, right? And he's going, I get it, this shame is big, this shame is huge. The cross was no walk in the park. But he goes, you know what the benefit was? So much bigger. It was so much better. So I will endure the cross. I will despise the shame because guess what? What I get back in return is huge. And now is the example he set before us. You see, Jesus doesn't promise an easy life for any of his followers. He says it's going to be hard. He doesn't even sugarcoat it. Right? He's not saying that, oh, life is easy. If you follow me, you'll be healthy, wealthy, and wise. He doesn't say any of these things. He says, no. If you follow me, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. If you want to obey me and follow me, it's going to suck at times. It will. But he goes this, endure, because Jesus endured it. Because Jesus despised the shame, because we got back. The joy of being reunited with God. The ability to be able to bring people back to him. He goes, you see, following me is going to be hard, but the consequence of it will be difficult and hard, but it's totally going to be worth it. It's not even a close race. It's way far and beyond what you put in. Because it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. It's like a $200,000, it's like spending $200,000 on a $3 million house. There's not a single person in this room that says that that's not worth it. Everyone's like, I'll figure it out. Even if I don't keep the house, I can still sell it and make a whole bunch of money. Right? No one here would say, that's not worth it. We get to the last point. And he keeps on going. Question is, why focus? So he tells us to lay aside the things that weigh us down, the weights and our sins. He tells us to look to Jesus as the author and perfecter of our faith, follow his example. Here's why. The answer is why. So we won't get weary. And we won't go faint-hearted. Now is the reason why we focus on him. So kind of last point, last verse 3. Consider him who endured. And here's that word again, endure. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. So that you will not go weary or faint-hearted. The focus keeps us on quitting. The focus keeps us from sinners, such hostility against himself. All the mockery, people spitting on him, people saying that you deserve to die, you're crazy. He endured all of them. And he goes, why should we focus on Jesus? Just so that you will not grow weary, you will not grow faint-hearted. And see this posture. And so he brings it back. This is a race. This is a spiritual race. And goes, focus on Jesus so you won't collapse. That you can look to him and endure. See, this spiritual race is an endurance race. It's not a short sprint. And there's going to be times where every single one of us will want to give up at one moment or another. It's kind of like, this is so hard. This is so difficult. But he's telling us to look towards Christ, look towards that goal. That's what's going to motivate you. That's what's not going to keep you. That's what's going to keep you from quitting. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember how long. I like to block it out of my memory. I went and I used to run a lot of these endurance races. Ran half marathons, I ran marathons, I've done like sprint triathlons, short distance, stuff like that. And so I've done some of these endurance races. So one of my friends asked me, some people at church asked me if I wanted to do something called the Spartan race. And it was a very new race at that time. I said, sounds fun. Didn't sound very long. They said it was a 10 to 12 mile run. So I said, oh, that's not that bad. All right, we'll do it. And so I went and did it. And what happened was probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life. It was not only raining that day with winds, it was also like 50 degrees outside. And they put us in this old cow farm the plains were completely uneven. It was the most wretched thing that I've ever done. And on top of that, they told us it was a 10 to 12 mile run, but it ended up being like a 13 plus mile run. And you might think, what's 1 mile? Trust me, that 1 mile was ridiculous, right? It was the worst thing because not only I could not get warm, because I could not run without spraining my ankle, they got me doing all these ridiculous things that could hurt me. And so by the time I'm 12 miles in, I'm like 1 mile out, my body gives up. Because I just couldn't keep warm. I couldn't run. I couldn't do any of these things. I'm soaked to the bone, right? I ripped up top to bottom because we're doing all these stupid things. And here I am, and everything cramps up. I had muscles that I did not know existed cramp up. I'm like, I don't even know how to stretch you out. I was that cramped up, right? Like it's kind of like, what is that? I don't know what it is. I'm collapsing. I'm cramping everywhere. Because I was just so cold, and it was the worst thing. I told myself I would never do a Spartan race again. I would go and run like 26 miles. I don't care about that. That's fine. It's no big deal. But if you're going to put me on that race, tell me that, oh, you can run and not let me run, and oh, just here's some water, good luck. No, I'm not doing that, right? And so here I am, 1 mile out. And I've seen so many people, like, during that time, like, people were just dropping like flies. It was like their first time in the Bay Area. They had no idea. Right? I think the T-shirt they gave us, I'm so upset. The T-shirt they gave us didn't even have a race on the back, right? They like list all these races and all these races that we're not even on there. Like it's as if we never existed. I was like, are you joking me? I drove all the way to Sacramento for this, and so I went there, and so I'm 1 mile out, and I told myself, I got to the point like I can quit or I can keep going. I go, I'm not quitting. I'm not going. I'll have my friends drag me to that finish line. I'm not going to quit. And I walked like painfully to the end. Because see, that's sometimes what it is. Sometimes for us, it's a spiritual race, and you're like all cramped up, and you're about like ready to quit because it's like I'm hurt top to bottom. And saying you need to focus on the end. The end is right there. And Jesus is right there. That is what you keep your eyes on. So you will not grow faint-hearted. So you will not go weary. So you will not quit. A lot of times when we want to quit is when we take our eyes off of Jesus. And a lot of times when we start sinking, we take our eyes off of Jesus. The thing is, there's a real reason why. There's a reason why that story in the Gospels where Peter gets out of the boat, starts walking to Jesus. When he takes his eyes off of Jesus, starts sinking. It just reminds us that physical illustration is a spiritual one for us. Don't take your eyes off of him. I love Philippians 4:13, which talks about this. He goes, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's not talking about I can achieve any goal I want. It's for times like this, when you want to quit, when running the race gets hard. Paul here is reminding us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's times when you want to quit that you have to remind yourself, I can do all things through Christ, because he's the one that strengthens me. He's the one that lets me finish this race. I love what one commentary says about this passage. It says, we must be totally absorbed with Jesus. totally absorbed with Jesus. I love that. I mean, that's what this passage is about. It's like, are you so incredibly absorbed with Jesus that every single action that you take is based on this spiritual race, based on running light, based on running focus towards Christ and towards his kingdom goals. And he's like, that's what it's about. Right? He goes, I read this, and it's really hard for me to like come up here and just like go, yeah, and then like go home and not do that, right? Like I was like, this whole week's like, man, freaking, you know, like, because I know my life is not always like totally absorbed in Jesus. It's like, you know, I want to make decisions that I know is going to weigh me down. It's like, oh gosh, right? You know, like I'm remembering that I need to run light, I need to run focus, and then it goes, church, are we that way? Are we that absorbed with Jesus that we're willing to endure any and every obstacle in our way? Are we willing to give up and just like cut cords with anything that holds us back? Like, can we do that? Are we brave enough or courageous enough to do that? Right? And it's so easy for all of us to compartmentalize our lives. Right? I remember Jesus in every single part, and then he's like, this passage going, you can't. Every single part of you, right? You need to run light. You need to run focused on Christ. You can't compartmentalize. You can't say, this is for Jesus, this is not. Because he goes, if you do that, that part's going to weigh you down. Oh, man. This is such a great example of endurance of faith. That should be relevant for all of us today. Not only from chapter 11, all these people with great faith, but also Jesus himself. From the prophets to the apostles, to maybe even family members, or old pastors, or Sunday school teachers, or counselors, or friends. Right? Those are the people that we can look to by faith to keep us running. And I know there's people in this room this morning that just want to quit. I want to quit. It's too hard. Taking your eyes off of Jesus. You see the hurts, the pain, the baggage, consequences of your actions, and maybe even the actions of those around you. Maybe you didn't do anything, it's just what other people did. This morning, what I want us to be able to just do together is, what does it look like to be completely absorbed in Jesus? Kind of just lay those things aside. Focused on him. To let go of all these things that are maybe holding us back. Regrets or hurts. Look up at Christ and keep moving forward. Because it's worth the pain. Because Jesus promises us it's worth the pain. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much that you are able to engage all people in all different ways. You know me, someone who loves sports, and you go ahead and throw this sports analogy in Scripture, so thank you for that. I pray for all of us. We are all in battle, some way, some form. All of us are. And I pray, Lord, that we make brave, courageous decisions this morning to cut cords with some things that are holding us back, whether they're hindrances or sins. Or we can look up to you, completely focus on you. Thank you so much for being the author and perfecter of our faith. The one that finished their faith for us, that lived this life that we can look to in confidence. Allow us to be able to run towards you so we don't quit. Thank you so much, Jesus, when we do fall, when we trip, you come and pick us back up. Thank you so much for never giving up on us. I pray you help us not give up on you. We pray all this in your son's name.